My mum has epilepsy. My name is Polly, and this is my little sister Flora. I am 9 years old. I have brown hair and brown eyes. I like to read, swim and play with my hamster. Flora has fair hair and brown eyes. She is 4 years old and goes to nursery. She likes to play with her toys and annoy me. Flora thinks she is really clever because she can now ride her bike without the stabilisers. I think she's clever too. We live at home with our mum. She's a single parent. Mum helps out at our school twice a week with reading and cooking. She also makes our dresses and knits for us. Mum is teaching me how to knit. I keep losing the stitches. Mum likes listening to music and our storyteller tapes. Mum also has epilepsy. That means she sometimes falls down and has a seizure. Some people call seizures other names like funny turns, spells or fits. When Mum has a seizure, she falls down and goes stiff. Then she shakes all over for 1 or 2 minutes. When the shaking is stopped, she goes to sleep for a little while. I was scared when I saw it happen for the first time because I didn't know what to do. But now I know to roll Mum over onto her side and wait with her until she wakes up. Mum is a big lump, heavier than my little sister. Sometimes Mum wets herself when she has a seizure, but she doesn't know anything about it until she wakes up because the seizure makes it happen. Flora and I used to laugh, but once I was at school and my friend told me a joke. I laughed so much that I wet myself. I felt really embarrassed, so now I know how Mum must feel when it happens to her. Mum takes tablets 3 times a day to help stop the seizures. Sometimes she forgets, so I have to remind her. Some people with epilepsy take different types of tablets or medicines because they have different types of epilepsy. Once, Mum forgot to take her tablets and she had a seizure. A lot of people with epilepsy don't have any seizures if they take their medicine every day. My teachers know my mum has epilepsy, and so do my friends. They used to ask me lots of questions about it. I told them it was a bit like being on a train and going through a long tunnel. It suddenly goes black for a few minutes. Then the train comes out of the tunnel and everything's all right again, as if nothing happened. Once, while I was at school, Mum had a seizure at home. Flora telephoned Mum's friend to come and help. Fortunately, Mum taught us both to use the telephone in case of an emergency. Mum went to see a doctor called a neurologist who deals especially with nerves and brains. He did some tests on her and then he sent her to another clinic to have an EEG. I was worried at first because I thought something was going to happen to my mum. Mum told me that they put some little pads with wires attached onto her head with some sticky stuff and it doesn't hurt. Mum told us that the signals from her brain makes a pattern of wavy lines on some paper coming out of the machine. And when the doctor looks at the lines, it helps him to see what is happening to cause the seizures. Then he can decide how to make Mum's epilepsy better. The doctor took some blood from Mum's arm, as sometimes things in the blood can make seizures happen. In some people, it can happen because they are ill or because they have hurt their head. Epilepsy isn't something you can catch like a cold. No one should be scared of it, but some people are scared when they see a seizure for the first time and think that the person having the seizure is dying or that it is something really bad. Then they panic. Sometimes, because people are scared, they make jokes or tease people with epilepsy. Some very clever people have epilepsy. Once, Mum had to stay in hospital for a few days so the doctor could do some more tests. Mum had a test called a CT scan. She had to be still for a while where a special camera took pictures of inside her head. It didn't hurt. The pictures helped the doctor who was treating Mum's epilepsy. He looked after Mum while she was in the hospital. Flora and I went to stay with Mum's friends, Jim and Pippa. They have 2 boys, Andrew and Peter. It was fun to play together, but Flora missed Mum a lot. Jim and Pippa took us to see Mum every day. One day, we were out shopping with Mum in town when suddenly she fell down and had a seizure. People stopped to look. A lady offered to call for an ambulance, but I told her that Mum would be all right in a while. Mum gets really annoyed if she wakes up in the hospital. She says that she doesn't need to go there unless she's hurt herself or has lots of seizures without waking up. People who know us don't telephone for an ambulance every time Mum has a seizure. They wait for Mum to wake up and then they carry on as if nothing happened. Mum hates a big fuss. Even though Mum has epilepsy, we do all the things everyone else does. When we go swimming, Mum tells the lifeguard that she has seizures, just in case she has one in the pool. Mum even goes down the water chute with us. Some people get worried and think that the person who has had the seizure needs to be helped all the time. Not all seizures are like Mum's. Some people's seizures just make them stop what they are doing and stare for a few seconds. Other seizures may be like walking around in a daydream, having a funny feeling, smelling a strange smell, or tasting a strange taste. Some people have one kind of seizure, and some people have more than one kind. A few people get worried when they first know that my mum has epilepsy, but when they get to know her, they see that she is just the same as any other mum, and that having epilepsy is not a problem. I used to feel scared when my mum started having seizures because I didn't know what was happening. But now I have learned a lot about epilepsy, I realise it is nothing to be afraid of. The main problem is people still don't understand it. I know what to do now though, and I don't feel scared of it anymore. Sometimes Mum goes back to the hospital for a blood test to check that the tablets are still working. The doctor said Mum might stop having seizures one day, but if she didn't, the tablets will help to stop the seizures happening anyway. It can be quite scary to see someone having a seizure, but try to stay calm. Move things away that could hurt the person. Roll them onto their side and put something soft under their head. But do not put anything in their mouth. Do not try to stop the shaking. The seizure might only last 1 or 2 minutes. And when the person wakes up, they may feel all muddled up. Make sure people don't crowd around. Wait with the person and talk quietly to them until they're feeling better. I hope you like that. I hope that helps to explain what happens. But I wrote that anyway for my children to explain to their friends what happens when an adult has epilepsy or seizures. A lot of people have used it for adults as well. It's the easiest way to explain to anybody, adult or child. I love that picture. Mum going, oh, because nobody likes having blood taken.